Welcome. Thank you for joining us today for this interview. We are so excited to have Lisa Louise Cooke from the Genealogy Gems with us. We're going to be welcoming her on in just a moment. But first, we're excited that you're here with us. Please tell us in the comments where you're from, how you're connecting, and most importantly, if you have any questions for Lisa. She is an amazing genealogy expert. I attended her class at Roots Tech and came away with so many ideas of how to bust through my brick walls. So go ahead and tell us those things in the comments, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Lisa. So Lisa Louise Cooke is the producer and host of the Genealogy Gems podcast, which if you haven't listened to, you need to add it to your list. And she also is the host of the weekly YouTube show, 11s with Lisa. And both are available at her website, genealogygems.com. And she is the author of 5 books, including The Genealogist Google Toolbox 3rd edition. And she is a podcaster, producer, and instructor and columnist for the Family Tree magazine. That's a lot of amazing stuff. And we are so excited to have her here. I'm going to go ahead and invite her in.
Hi, Carolyn.
Hello. Welcome. We are so happy to have you here. I've just told them a little bit about you. Let's get started with what excites you about genealogy? How did you become involved in this field?
Well, it'd probably be a shorter list if we talked about what doesn't excite me about genealogy, right?
Yes.
Oh, gosh. Well, I'll tell you how I got started. It was many, many moons ago. I was about 8 years old, and I was at my grandma's house and one summer and hanging out on the floor in the back room, and this floor-to-ceiling bookshelf was there. And so I could see what was on the first shelf. And I see all these old black scrapbooks, and I started getting inquisitive and pulling them out. And I was like, wait a minute, I don't know who these people are. And by the way, none of these pictures are in color. So what's happening here? So I went in to get my grandma out of the kitchen. I said, what's this? Who are these people? And I remember almost being shocked. Like, how do you have strangers in your books? And she said, well, those are my people. That's my mama and my papa. And I went, what? And so next thing we did was she grabbed a scrap of paper, and I still have it. And she started scribbling down what she knew about her family. And her parents had come from Germany. They were from East Prussia in 1910. And I think what fascinated me about the whole thing was that I just loved her so much, and I just couldn't believe she didn't have every single answer already, right? So then it became my life's work and passion. I wanted to fill it all in. I want to figure it out and kind of get those answers for grandma. And I can say I've done a lot of work so far, but I'm still working on it. And so I tell people that I was the only kid in grade school using their allowance to buy death certificates. I was that much of a geek about it. And I've done it ever since. So I'm passionate about all of it. I like the puzzle solving. I like the connection that it is to people I didn't know, but I can see their influences in my daily life. And I value family. So what better thing could there be to do?
Right. Oh, I love that. I love how it was accessible. It was right there at your level. I think that's something we can all note.
Oh, that's an awesome analogy, actually, that the books were there at my level. And I think that's one of the things we run into is as a problem as a genealogist is we forget to communicate family history where other people are, even when they're not a genealogist. I love that.
I love that. That's what your grandmother did for you. She started where you are, and look how far you come. I bet she's really happy with how far you've come.
She would be so psyched that I do what I do, just because I always was in theater when I was a kid, and she did a lot of theater throughout school. So the idea that I'm doing anything with media and stuff would just be so exciting to her. So
yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. I love that. And I love that you are helping bring this industry to the media, like through your podcast, through YouTube, and that's making it accessible, like grandma did too. Yeah. And that actually ties in perfectly to my next question. It's been really cool to watch over the last 10 years, all of this new technology. Family history is really going, it's really going digital. And how do you feel technology has changed for the industry in the past 10 years? And how have you rode through that change? Like from scrapbooking with grandma to YouTubing over family history?
Well, I started the podcast in 2007. So it's actually been 13 years now. And that was about 15 months after they had literally just invented podcasts. So it was, I call it the Wild West. It was. And I think the key thing that technology has done is it democratizes everything. And what I mean by that is it just levels the playing field. And it says you don't have to have yourself a big old publisher. You don't have to be taken on by a multimedia, conglomerate or a radio station. If you have a message, there are ways for you to share it. And technology now makes that possible across the board. And it did for me. My whole thing in 2007 was I really want to help people do this. But I'd really like to reach more people than just a small group of maybe a dozen people at the local society, because I feel like, the more the merrier. And so I was thinking, I need this big bulletin board. And as soon as I saw podcasts, I said, that's the bulletin board. And it was amazing. Within just a month, I had my first listeners, and some were from around in Europe and other places. So, oh my gosh, it's a global reach. I got on YouTube before Google owned it. And that's been interesting because genealogists have been slow to embrace video. And I would say that's one of the positives, if there is a positive out of this last year of 2020. It's hard. You have to dig through 2020 to find the positives. But one of the positives is it's pushed everybody to get past that fear and apprehension and to say, oh, there's a place for me there too. And we don't have to dig all the way through YouTube just to go and enjoy straight to the good stuff that we like, which is genealogy. I think the technology that's making the biggest advancements, actually, that's my world. It's the technology in terms of media, but it's artificial intelligence and machine learning. That's touching every element of what we're doing. It's what all the websites are using now. Well, not all of them, but the big ones. Ancestries was talking about that at their VIP breakfast at Roots Tech this year, was the fact that machine learning is being used behind the scenes. And so we don't see it, but the speed at which it learns and improves their ability to get information out of databases and such is absolutely incredible. I just covered this in detail in a episode of 11s is with Lisa, and it was specifically around this tool that Library of Congress just launched. It's called Newspaper Navigator. And if you haven't checked it out, you got to check it out. It's free. And it gives you the ability to search imagery out of newspapers for the first time. But more importantly, it gives you the experience of how you train AI to learn faster and get better results quicker. And so it's an interesting chance to put your hands on a little bit of AI and see how that works. But it's being used, and it's dramatically changed Google this last year too.
Well, that's fantastic. I don't think many of us, when we think like family history, genealogy, like our brain doesn't jump straight to AI. So that's exciting. And I haven't checked out that news. You said Newspaper Navigator,
Newspaper Navigator. Yeah, it was
Congress.
Yeah, it's a special lab. They have a whole lab section that they're doing where they're doing testing just like Google has labs. And I did a hour-long live show that's available as a video on my website. And it was fun because there was a guy and a gal who developed that program actually caught us live and jumped on and started talking and chatting. And it was awesome. And they loved it that we were talking about using it for family history. They were so excited. But it gives you a chance to actually search, find pictures, not just articles, pictures specifically, and then train the system to find them faster and get more accurate. It's really interesting.
That's fantastic. Pictures are kind of like that heart of genealogy. Everyone wants to find pictures of our loved ones and important things that happened when they were alive. So I'm very excited to check that out. And I'm just so grateful that you've been a trailblazer through this this crazy wild, wild west, and I love that it's moved to more of a worldwide community. Like I was looking at our comments. We have Marcel from Canada here. Let's see. We'll pop Marcel up. Let's get Marcel up. And he's
Hi,
one of your YouTube followers. Like genealogy isn't a solo sport, so it's exciting. And we've mentioned Google a little bit, and I loved your class on Google searches at Roots Tech. So I wanted to dive into Google. And so tell us, what are some of your favorite, this will be like choosing a favorite child, I think. What are some of your favorite Google resources? And can you give us some examples of how you've used them or discoveries you've made through using them?
Yes. Okay. So I have two I'd love to share. One is a class. I don't think I taught it this year at Roots Tech, but I teach it pretty regularly. And it's a video on my premium membership site, and it's called Google Books, the tool I use every day. And people will ask me a lot, what's your favorite? And of course, your favorite website's the one that has your ancestors in it. So that's, that changes every day.
Right.
But I have to say, I really think that Google Books is a tool that I literally almost use every single day, because it's 25 million digitized books. It's worldwide. It's in foreign languages. Everybody at some point has touched text in some form, shown up in some text somewhere. And Google Books is books, it's magazines, it's catalogs, it's almanacs. It's just amazing, the variety of material. So when I get lots of emails from my listeners and my viewers, and one of the first places I'll go look, because I'll think, the chances are they probably haven't looked there, but I'm going to find something really cool. So I'd say that Google Books is probably one of the big things. Can I demonstrate my other favorite tool?
I think so. I think you can. Okay. We can share your screen.
Oh, no, I don't have to share my screen. I'm going to show it to you real time.
Perfect. Yes, show it real time.
And this actually merges the two together, because Google Lens is my new other favorite Google tool. It's built into Google Photos, and in the new 3rd edition of my book, I go in depth into Google Photos and actually using that to help you identify ancestors sometimes. But if you have a book like this, so let's say you run to the library, or you're at a book sale, or you're at a conference, and you see, there's this reprint of this county history. I would love to have this is the Randolph County, Indiana history. And I paid a lot of money for it years ago. So you're standing there and you think, well, gosh, I wonder, one, if I already have that, or I wonder if it's already available for somewhere else for free. Mm-hmm. Well, if you turn to the title page, the camera, okay, I turn to the title page, take your smartphone. You probably have the Google search app on your smartphone, right? Mm-hmm. So pull that up. Now, this doesn't always work on Samsung phones, so I'll just warn you about that. But I'm on an iPhone here, and I tap the G, just the G, I have it in my dock, the Google app. Mm-hmm. Probably, Terilyn, noticed that little microphone that you see where you can actually dictate the search that you want to do. You can tap the microphone.
Right.
Well, there's another cute little icon right next to it, and that's Google Lens. And if I tap that and I hold it over this page and tap the button, it searches, pops up, and here's read more.
Oh,
and
cool.
I can tap this, and now I am reading the complete digitized book in Google Books.
Oh, nice.
Google Books. So one, I know that I can get access to this book and I don't need to buy the book, right? Because it's already available. It's also completely keyword searchable, which is going to be way faster than reading the entire book cover to cover, trying to find an ancestor. Mm-hmm. But honestly, that's just the tip of the iceberg of what Google Lens will do. Now, Google Lens is built into Google Photos. Mm-hmm. But, I just finished, I think it's episode 27 of 11 is with Lisa. The whole thing is Google Lens, and I use it to identify items I've inherited. You can identify objects. It's just unbelievable. And it's not the kind of tool that you would look at and go, oh, that would be great for genealogy. But that's what we do. In that whole episode, we did a whole hour on that. And it's really exciting to see that object technology, that object recognition technology, and to be able to have it bring books straight to your phone.
Cool.
So what exactly did you scan in the book? Well, what I did, if I'm thinking of your question correctly, the book is already digitized in Google Books. So I went to the title page because that had the most information about this volume. It has the name, it has the author, it has the year. And when you tap the Google Lens icon and just hold it over that page and press that button, it will run the search and find it. So from there, if I want to clip items out of the book, I can do that. If I want to download the entire PDF, I can do that. But considering that history books, typically prior to 1924, fall in the public domain, you're going to find tons of them in Google Books. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. Angela had a comment. She said, I use Google Books all the time, but I've never tried that trick before. How wonderful. We're all using this now. Now, I love that you said, I think you said you've used it for things like heirlooms. So like, let's say I know Olivia, one of our team members, she was telling me, well, she showed me this cool like World War II hat, like a soldier's hat. If she like used Google Lens and took a picture of that, could it help her identify it? Is that what
Absolutely. It's probably going to bring up a photograph that will have a caption that will say, oh, this is a World War I lieutenant in Prussia. It's going to do that kind of thing. So it's going to run image search. It has optical character recognition built in. I can give you an example, Tara-Lynn, that I did. Sure. I had this metal shelf, and I didn't even know it was a shelf. It came in 2 parts. And I remember showing it to my husband's godfather and saying, what is this? Because he's an engineer and he put it together this way. And it turned out it was a shelf that went like that. So this could go up against the wall. And then here's this shelf. And I thought, well, maybe that's to put plants on. It's this old metal, ornate, Victorian looking thing. I got it from my grandmother and it belonged to her mother. So for years I've had it, and I have it on the wall in my bedroom with a little jar of old buttons on it. Okay, it's cute. So when I was getting ready for this episode, I ran over and I put the Google Lens, took the picture, looked at it. It says, oh no, that's a Victorian metal shelf for a stove. You know, the old fire stove. I can't remember. An iron stove. You know what I'm saying? And it actually gave the model of the old wood burning iron stove that great grandmother would have had in her house, and said that this came with it as an accessory and you had it on the wall so you could have things easily accessible to your stove. So it wasn't a plant shelf, and I had spent ages going through the old Sears catalog and Ancestry looking for this shelf, and it didn't exist. And that's why. So Google Lens knew, and it found antique dealers who were selling these, who might have one in their collection and they had it for sale and they had done all the research on it. So it's pretty fun.
You never know what house. Yeah, I love that. We actually have an heirloom challenge coming up later this week.
Oh,
that would be perfect.
It's the perfect scavenger hunt tool because you can run around your house and take these Google Lens snapshots and learn the history and see what you can find out. Yeah.
That's fun. I like that. A scavenger hunt. What a cool and like doable research. Like that doesn't sound like I think I could do it. I'm gonna try it as soon as we're done. I'm totally gonna do it. So that's an incredible resource. Our experiment has a range of people. We have beginners, and then we have like the diehards, like you and I. Yeah. What would you say is your favorite resource for like the very beginners, like those just starting out?
You know, everybody's going to say, oh, I wish, what's the website? What's the tool? And the best resource is a genealogy database. That's what I believe. I think it's awesome to put your data online. If you want to have it on an online tree, that has such a great ability to gather information and share information. But in the end, I think we need to have our own database. It's kind of like the final word of what we believe to be true that we've found and we've sourced. And a database will do a couple things. It will prompt you what you should be looking for. It's also going to encourage you and kind of push you to cite your sources. And I think probably in talking to genealogists, the number one lament, the thing that they regret the most, is that they didn't cite sources from the very beginning. And that's oftentimes because they didn't start with a database. So if you have a software database, which are fairly inexpensive, now it's on your computer. You've got a place to cite all those sources. It can probably even synchronize to some of those online family trees, but it's yours, and you get your computer backed up to the cloud, and that way you can retain firm control on yours, and you can have multiple trees within it. But I really think that's one of the most important resources that a beginner should have. And then, of course, I think Family Search being free. Family Search isn't always the easiest. It's a little intimidating sometimes for the beginner. They first get in there and go, oh, there's so much going on. But how about this? Go to Google Books and just search for one ancestor's name or the town. And all of a sudden you'll find a county history, and that's going to be the stories. Jump into that. And then from there, the world is your oyster. There's so much to do.
Yeah, it's so exciting. I think after your class in Roots Tech, I did a search for one of my brick wall ancestors, and I found his address in Germany. And I was able to discover what he worked as, and his shop was right across the street from that German National Theater. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what did he see while he was there? It's just another piece to the story, that contextual information.
Well, that's probably, I should have said, having written a book about it. I mean, google.com is really your other every single day resource. It's free. And Tara-Lynn, I still teach classes, and I'll ask people when I'm teaching a Google topic, how many of you are regularly using it? And there will always be people who say, it's never dawned on me to use Google. I go to Family Search, I go to Ancestry, I go to MyHeritage, I do these other things. And we have to remember that there are genealogy sites. Those are standalone. Those make great sense. But then there's all these distant cousins, librarians, archivists, people who are really interested in the history of someplace. And they all have other pieces to the puzzle, but they've got them on blogs and websites and library websites. And so Google is really still the best vehicle to search, to find all the nooks and crannies on the web outside of all the go-to genealogy sites. So that's something, and it's easy and free.
I love that. So it's so important for us to have that home base. So we have somewhere where our tree is, and then kind of look beyond the traditional resources to things like Google Books. That's fantastic. So that's where, maybe some good advice for beginners and for people who've been doing it for a while. But what is your favorite resource? If someone, they've gone through their family search hints, they've gone through their ancestry hints, they have a brick wall. We've talked about Google Books and Google Lens. Are there other resources that are your favorite brick wall busters?
I think it's really this tool, these tips, which is we talk about search operators in the book, and you probably heard me talk about it in the class. Chances are, if you have a brick wall and you've done some looking and you're not finding anything, it's possible you haven't quite spoken to Google the way it needs to hear the language to get you what you want. And I'd say one of the number one things that's super easy to do is to use things like quotation marks. And that's a search operator that you can put around a word or a phrase, and that instructs Google, hey, this phrase has to be on each result you give me. And it has to be spelled the way I'm spelling it. So if I'm spelling Larson, S-E-N, not S-O-N, then it's going to have that. And you can add operators like that to your query, and all of a sudden this volume of results goes way down, which is good because you can have 25 million results, and the quality of the results you're getting is going to go way up. So I always encourage people, it may not be that it's not out there. It may be you haven't asked for it the way Google best understands. And search operators work in all the tools that Google puts out, whether it's Google Books or Google Patents or Google Scholar, and then just the regular search engine. They even work to a certain extent in YouTube. So using that, and also the minus sign. Get rid of words that are clogging up your results and getting you off track. And if you know that that word is not associated with your family or the record collection you're looking for, subtract it. And that works great for common names. You know, if you had a common name like Smith or Lincoln or something like that, you'd want to subtract words that are associated with the sites that are coming up that are getting in your way. You know, if you're not related to President Lincoln, then subtract President, subtract Abraham, and then try it again. And you might be really surprised how much better your results are.
That's such a fantastic tip. You know, with my German example, I hadn't thought I should be searching like in German, not in English.
Yes.
That's why nothing was coming up, because I was searching in English and these were German people.
I talk about that in the Google Books class, that you can use Google Translate to translate what you're asking for. And then you can also translate back out when you're in Google Books, because they usually do provide a translation. So
it's so helpful. It's so amazing. Wow. I'm going to have to come back and watch all of this again. I'm thinking like Newspaper Navigator, Google Lens. I love how you make it doable. This feels doable, like something we can do no matter our level.
It's totally doable. Yes.
And I love that you have this host of resources over on Genealogy Gems as well. I think you said you've been doing Genealogy Gems since, did you say 2007?
2007, yeah.
So that's 13 years, lucky 13, right?
On the 13th day of the challenge.
On the 13th day of the challenge. This is perfect. I'd love to talk a little bit about the podcast and what people can find on the podcast. Again, it's another favorite child question, but what have been some of your favorite episodes, either the podcast or 11's? What have been some of your favorite episodes?
Well, for the podcast, which we have our own podcast app in your app store. We also are in all the major, from Spotify to Pandora to Apple Podcasts, everything in between. So and you can ask Alexa to play the podcast. It'll play the podcast.
Oh my gosh, I will now. I am going to do that.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could do that.
Absolutely. We try to, in fact, we were in the, before Pandora and before Spotify went full blown on podcasts, they invited us to be part of it. So we really were honored to do that. Favorite podcast, you know, I love when I had Lisa Kudrow on the show, because she's been friends and Who Do You Think You Are? And she's absolutely as adorable as she is, as smart as a whip, but just as adorable as Phoebe, you know. So she's been on a couple times. I had a gal named Julianne Mangin on, and we did a couple episodes with her. And one of them I did as almost like a documentary, an audio documentary, a story thing, because I love telling story and doing that. So that was kind of fun. It was a departure for me. It was creatively challenging, and yet it was a fun way to hear a really interesting story. If you had no interest in doing genealogy, that's okay. It was still a murder. It was a mystery, and there was murder and intrigue and all that. But we also covered the strategies she used to actually solve it along the way. So that was a really fun episode to do. With 11's is with Lisa, which, and I know it seems like a funny name, but it's named after the traditional tea time in the morning, which is 11 o'clock.
Fun.
And so you think of it as on Thursdays at 11 o'clock Central, you can jump on YouTube, bring your favorite beverage, and meet with all your friends and talk about your favorite subject, which is genealogy. So that's the premise of the show.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I started that, right around third week of March, right after COVID hit and all that. And so we've done it every week. And I'd say that I'm having a blast doing it. I have wanted to do it. And I'm so happy that genealogists are finally jumping in with both feet into YouTube, and no more fear. And now they're just having a fabulous time. We're growing really fast. And some of my favorite episodes, I did one was totally devoted to free genealogy. So anything, if you just don't want to spend a dime and you want to get lots done, we did all that. The Google Lens episode was just a riot, because it was so much fun, and people were just going insane, and they all had their phones out on chat and telling us what they were running around the house looking at. We've covered Google Earth, which is one of my favorite topics, and using Google Earth for family history. And we did one specifically. It's all about your ancestors' neighborhood and using Google Earth to learn so much more and actually kind of build out their neighborhood and build out the stories that were going on there at that time. So, you're right. Each one of them is my baby and my child. And, but we have a really good time, and I'm so lucky because I learn a ton preparing every episode, so it's really kept me on my game. I have a deadline, and I look forward to seeing my genealogy friends online, but it's really challenging me to learn more about these topics and also to apply them to my own research. So that's how I kind of tuck my research in the middle of this busy genealogy gems day I always have.
Oh, I think that's wonderful. And I think that's a good thing for us all to note too. I mean, if you've been, buying death certificates since grade school, and you are still discovering new things.
Absolutely.
I hear a lot like, oh, well, all my genealogy's done.
Oh, like, no, it's not.
No,
it's not. We don't buy that.
No.
You're just getting to the good stuff if you feel like you're there. Right. And I think that's what I love is I'll see in chat and people will say, oh, I didn't know that. Well, now I've got a whole other thing that I can go launch into. And see, that's the fun of it, is it never stops.
Right. I love that. And I love how, even after 13 years of podcasting it and doing even more years of genealogy, it's still new and exciting for you. I can feel that as we're talking. I can tell how much you love that. And I think that's so good for people to know that they can dive into genealogy and find what they love, do what they love. That's
and I always say, you have permission to dabble. You don't have to be professional. You don't have to do it in and day out. A lot of people have steered clear because they feel like it's all or nothing and there's so much pressure. No, dabble in it, play with it, do it on your phone if that's the only chance you have. We all pick it up and put it down along the way. But there's no rules.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
See, we have another comment from the lovely Rose Nyman. You're always great ideas, and it's so delightful and interesting. I love this.
Thank you.
It's true. It's wonderful. Well, we'd like to get to know. I just dove right into the resources and your areas of expertise, but we'd love to know a little bit about you too. So we know it's crazy COVID year, 2020. You started a new YouTube channel. That's one of your COVID accomplishments. What are some of your favorite ways that you've been connecting with your family? And it can be, past, like your ancestors, or present with your family. And tell us about your family too. I know you have a very supportive husband and daughters. And so go ahead and tell us about them and how you've been connecting during the pandemic.
Well, Bill and I are connecting because we're here all day, every day together. I used to travel a lot worldwide, and he didn't always travel with me. But we are actually really enjoying the fact that we've gotten to catch up, this year much more. I have 3 grown daughters and 3 grandchildren, which is exciting. With one of my daughters. 2 of my daughters are married, and they've all been at some point involved in the business. All 3 daughters have, and have helped me and stepped in at different times. So I couldn't have done it certainly without them. So grandchildren, of course, that's one of my favorite things. For me personally, I think it's actually been really, like I said, it's really been wonderful. I have finally, like I said, I'm not traveling as much. We're certainly home more, and I've got these deadlines. I'm really making new progress. I'm busting through some brick walls that I had 10 years ago that, there just wasn't anything to do with. So that's really rewarding personally. My thing is, I am just my husband was just telling me this. I'm insatiable about, I want to learn new stuff. I just want to learn. I feel like I've only got this many years on the planet. I got to get in as much as I can.
Fill it.
And my grandmother was like that. And so I immediately started taking up learning how to play the guitar. So I'm taking online guitar lessons, and I play every single day. And I tell you, guys, whether it's genealogy or whatever it is, if you devote even just 20 minutes, but every single day to something, you're going to be so much better at it in a month, in 2 months, and you've got something to show for it. And I didn't think I'd ever be able to play anything that sounded like a real song. I'm a pianist. I've played piano my whole life. So I love music, but guitar was just one of those bucket list type things. I ought to know how to do that. I did it in the 4th grade for 1 year. I played in school. So I'm having a blast playing guitar, and my hubby bought me a bright red electric guitar for my birthday. So now I play an electric guitar. And talk about family history. I'm playing all the old songs from when I was a teenager. And I've also taken up a little bit of painting. I'm painting roses. So that's one of my fun things on the side. And but connecting with family, for me, I love video. I have this year digitized all the remaining home movies in my collection. And now it's just this mother lode of opportunity to create little clips and stories and videos. And there's nothing better than video to share online, to connect with particular family that's far away, and to share a little taste of family history without overwhelming them. So video is probably my favorite sharing mechanism. I do regular episodes on it, and I've done some premium videos on it. And now I just have all this new footage to work with. So I'm really excited.
That's so fun. I love that. And I think that's one of our COVID's silver linings. We've all kind of had to pivot a little bit. And I love that you've been able to take the time to explore new passions and go deeper into what you're already passionate about, and connect with your family along the way. That's wonderful.
Yeah. Whenever you feel like you're sitting and you're bored, you have to ask yourself, what was it, 9 months ago that I said, oh, if I only had time. And that's what we have to keep telling ourselves.
It's good. We're just all learning to pivot and try new things. Maybe, and along those same lines, what are you looking forward to in 2020 and 2021? We've all dove into video a bit more. You're doing your bite-sized videos to share with family. Like, what's on the forecast for you in 2021? Which is hard to know because it's COVID.
It is hard to know, isn't it? One, I have a firm belief we'll get past COVID. I think the number one thing I look forward to is seeing people in person. When I travel the world and talk and give lectures, the best part is the hug at the end and the line at the podium, and just visiting with people and hearing their stories. And people need people. And my personal belief is we should never give up on, this is the new normal. I don't believe it for a second. Our ancestors got past it. We will get past it. One of the things I say at the end of my show is be smart and be brave. I don't say stay safe to people. I know people know how to stay safe. People are wise. People know how to protect themselves, and they know what their situation is. But I hope we all stay brave and smart about what we're doing and making the most of whatever, God gives us an opportunity to do. I want to do it and do it well. So for me, 2021, I'm holding out great hope that I'm going to be in person again with genealogists. That's my hope. I'm certainly going to be producing a lot more videos. That I don't think I'll ever be able to set that down now that I'm so addicted to it. And maybe I'll be able to play Crazy on You by heart. I don't know. I'm working on the guitar.
That'd be fun. Well, and I love that you are still, even though we're all kind of isolated, you're still cultivating those relationships until we can meet. You have the YouTube show where we can, sit down and have a drink and talk to each other. That's wonderful. And we can still find ways to connect so that next year when we all see each other in person, it'll be that much better because we've still been reaching out and learning from each other. So I'm glad.
I think I look forward to how much we will all have a new appreciation for our sweet faces next to each other and hugs and those things, because that makes the world go round. Yep.
It does. We have a couple of questions. Camille wanted to know what projects you have for those fun home videos. And that's a huge accomplishment, getting all of those home videos in.
So what I've been focusing on are short, like 3-minute videos. If you think about the attention span of the average person, that's about it. And it's also the most shareable on Facebook. If you want videos to get any real traffic, if you're looking to expand beyond just your family and you put it on YouTube, you want to shoot for about 10 minutes. I've made a couple that I've shared on my 11s is with Lisa's show. We did 2 episodes. One, the overall concepts behind how to make really good short family history videos. I think that was episode 19, but don't quote me. And then I did one on specifically using Adobe Spark, which is a free app, and how to drop those in and how to really make good, compelling videos. And so I did one about my grandfather's railroad experience. He was a conductor for his entire life. And I hope to tell more of those vignette stories, ones that are very relatable, that I think that family who aren't necessarily into genealogy are going to go, I didn't know that. Oh my gosh, and it will really be something that they can be proud of and go, that's really fascinating. That's part of me. Okay, awesome. Maybe I'll share that. So, yeah.
I love that. Relatable vignettes.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Marcel had a question. Will you be at the virtual Roots Tech 2021?
Well,
and I know that's kind of up in the air right now.
Kind of up in the air. I have been there since, technically the second year. The first year was in combo with BYU. So I've been a speaker there ever since the second year. I'm hopeful. I'll hopefully be hearing here very soon because I think they're just now starting to get some of the emails out. I certainly did propose to speak, and I look forward to that opportunity because we're not going to miss a beat just because all this is happening this year. We're going to keep meeting. So it's going to be an amazing event. So I hope so, Marcel. I hope I see you there.
Yeah. Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited to watch everybody. Now we have kind of a technical question that I'm going to pop up, and maybe we can help her out. She's looking for death certificate, burial place, death date from ancestor last found in 1870 Kentucky census, and 1880 his wife was listed as a widow, and she can't find this Houdini. What would your ideas be for her to try to break through this brick wall? At least she doesn't need 1890. We can cross.
Yeah. Oh, seriously. When you have those Houdinis, the ones who just like pop off the planet and they go up in a UFO spaceship, or I don't know what they're doing, but they're not where they're supposed to be. That is one of the first things I will do is go to Google Books. Because, and I can tell you from my experience over and over, people who seem to fall off the planet actually went to a different county. But the thing is, when you're leafing through books and you're looking through county websites, of course, they're not where they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Google Books has so many old county histories, all keyword searchable, and other types of books as well, that a quick search within Google Books, I've found them over and over in the neighboring county or somewhere else. And they went there to start a business, to go to school, to do whatever. And then maybe they end up coming back. So that is one of the biggest sweeps you can make. And if you use those search operators, you might be able to really zero in. I found somebody one time who seemed to disappear up in Canada, in Saskatchewan. And it turned out she was a school teacher for a few years. And I found this little, like the superintendent's school record almanac for Saskatchewan from 1910 or something like that. And there she is listed as a teacher, and it's showing which school she's working at, that she's moving semester. They moved them around sometimes, and who she lived with. So which family is housing the school teacher that semester.
Oh, cool.
So a really unique item you wouldn't expect to really find anywhere else, but it absolutely explains why she's out in the middle of the prairie, a place where we never would have thought to look.
I think that's fantastic. Fantastic advice. Hopefully that will help with that.
Yeah,
with that Houdini, we never know. So I think it helped me with one of my Houdinis. So
good.
I highly recommend it. We've covered so many exciting things. My to-do list. to-do list kind of sounds bland. My I get to-do list
Yes.
is so long after this interview. I'm excited to check out these resources. I'm totally gonna tell my Alexa to play your podcast.
Good.
Get all caught up. Is there anything that I haven't asked about that you would like to add or share or?
Well, something kind of fun. I know I'm running out of stuff to watch that I want to watch that's on
Yeah.
TV. If you have a smart TV or you have an Apple TV or Roku or whatever, you probably have a YouTube app. And a lot of my listeners are telling me they're pulling that up and maybe they never bothered to use it before on their TV.
Mhm.
But, in the evening, if you've run out of your favorite show or watched all the reruns, go into the YouTube app and type in Genealogy Gems or Lisa Louise Cooke or Elevenses, and we'll pop up, and you've got the whole catalog there that you can watch. And they're 1-hour full-length shows. So
Oh, that's fantastic.
viewing.
I love that. I love that. And I'm totally going to be doing that. That is so fun. Well, I hope we get to see you at Roots Tech. I'm excited that I can join in. Let's see. Today's Tuesday, so 11s will be Thursday. At, did you say 11 Central Time?
11 Central.
At
Yes.
11 Central.
In fact, at genealogygems.com/11s, which is in our video menu, I even have a little time zone converter, because that's the hardest part, right? Is figuring out what time zone it is for you.
That's so true. That's so smart. I'm just scrolling through. I think we hit on everything. Thank you so much for being here with us. I am just so inspired by your passion and your breadth of knowledge. So many good things. So we're glad that you've been here with us, and thank you again.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and congratulations on this project. I think it's excellent and something that is very well needed. So I'm very honored and thrilled to be a part of it. Thank you, Carolyn.
Oh, you're welcome. We're so happy to have you here. I think you're a great example of that, accessible, even, 5-minute genealogy. We can do 5-minute genealogy sometimes, but we're always hooked to do more.
That's true.
Right? It's true. We always get sucked in for more, but there really are quick, fast things we can do with our smartphones, with our TVs. We have all this technology available to us. And then thank you to everyone who joined, to Marcel and Camille, Rose. Thanks for joining in and for your questions. We have one more event tonight at 7. We'll be doing a how-to live with Sydney Walker, a journalist, and Rachel Trotter from Evilog Life, and they'll be talking about interviews and preserving and recording your memories. So be sure to pop in there. And yes, and thank you again, Lisa. We're so glad you're here. You have been here, and we'll see everybody at 7.
Thanks.